Hello everyone, we are finally back after the international break. Game week 8 team selection, some of my transfer plans going forward is what we're going to look at today. Be sure to leave some comments down in the comment section below. I need to get my brain back in the FPL mindset, and I'll get back to everyone that comments. So if you have any questions, be sure to put them down below. Hit that like button while you're down there, and let's get straight into it. So we've had 2 weeks off since the international break. I can't say a lot has happened, but a lovely green arrow in game week 7, which currently brings us to 2 million in the world. We currently also have 4 free transfers to work around with and 1.3 million in the bank. And I do have some plans to be done this week. Again, I think with the free transfers I'm way more flexible. So in front of you I've got Ederson versus Wolves and Rico Lewis also. Trent Alexander-Arnold with Chelsea and Saliba with Bournemouth away. I'm really happy with the defence. When I bring up some of the odds for clean sheet odds, that is one of the metrics I do look at on a weekly basis for some of my players. And Ederson and Lewis, of course, playing for City, have the highest probability this week of keeping a clean sheet at 56%. And also, you would say that Wolves have been fairly disappointing this season so far. Another tough game for him. And Lewis has been picking up some great positions, don't get me wrong. But he also got a rest and didn't play too much for England during the international break. Ederson, a pick that people will be laughing at, but I'm happy to go into this fixture with him, of course, and the following weeks to come. I feel like City in general have some really decent fixtures coming up. And if you have Ray in that slot, I mean, happy days, but I actually don't mind too much having Ederson. My only issue with having the two City boys here is that it probably takes up a future City slot and that I maybe want, like a Kevin De Bruyne or a Phil Foden going forward, but again, we can alter that around when it comes to that time because we have so many free transfers. So, Ederson and Lewis, very happy with. Trent Alexander is another one that we'll get onto now, which I know a lot of people are looking to get rid of, but I can completely understand it if you're trying to get the likes of a Cole Palmer in. It's difficult at this point in the season after seeing the premiums like Saka, Salah and Palmer and Haaland, of course, doing so well to have all of them. And one way where you can stretch your funds to do that is, of course, getting rid of Trent. Do I agree with getting rid of Trent? Not necessarily, but I think if you're on wildcard, or if I was on wildcard, I probably would get rid of him. So I can understand it from that point of view. When I look at this fixture in isolation, of course, Liverpool have conceded, 2 goals this season, which is absolutely ridiculous. This is at Anfield, and it will be a big test for Chelsea because, in fairness, they've done very, very well. I have to say they're probably after outperforming what I expected for them to do so far this season. But again, this will be a massive test. And same for Liverpool, who of course had the easiest fixture run on the FDR since game week 1. So fixtures starting to change for both of these teams. Maybe a time to get rid of Trent. I don't mind it again, like I said, but we know Trent has had 1 attack and return this season. And I think that shows that he's gotten some good areas. We've seen this on a weekly basis. But when he starts returning, it is... I mean, we've seen it in other seasons that it's going to be a massive haul. And I would not be surprised to see some sort of return in this fixture. Again, I don't expect the clean sheets to carry on at this rate. They've been absolutely phenomenal, but again, they will be tested. So, let's see. Moving on to Saliba, of course, very happy with Saliba. A lot of people have Gabriel in this position, but again, I explained my case for going with Saliba and I don't regret it. And of course, Arsenal conceded in both of the easier fixtures, in the Southampton one and the Leicester one, so it is what it is. I know a lot of people are going to eventually start going towards the double Arsenal defence when the tough fixtures pass. And I'm completely on board with that. But again, I'm hoping to pick up some sort of variance with the double City boys rather than the double Arsenal ones. And of course, we know that I have double Arsenal attack going forward. But we'll get into that in a second. So that is the defence. Let me know what you think of it. I'm very, very happy with it, I have to say. Let's get into the midfield. So this week we've got a very interesting midfield, I have to say. Tyler, Dibbling, Mbeumo, Rodgers and Saka. Of course, 2 yellow flags in the midfield with Saka and Dibbling, but I think Dibbling's one is fairly precautionary and Saka's one, I think we can expect him to be back. Whether or not it means he's going to get 90, I'm unsure. But again, so Saka is one player that I'm looking to get rid of this week, not necessarily because it's flagged, but only because I feel like I want to play a bit more aggressive like I've done in past seasons. I really feel like there is an opportunity to go to the likes of Youngmin Son, and today we got some hopeful quotes from Ange Postecoglou. I really rate, you're going to call me biased, but of course I really rate the Spurs attack. Let's be real, looking at the numbers, it says it all. And with Son back in the mix, you'd like to think that he'll convert some of the chances that Timo Werner has missed. Of course, I do expect him to be on penalties as well. I would be very surprised if it was Solanke on him. But I'm going to own both of them anyway. And I would say I'm about 75% bringing in Son Heung-min for Saka. What I would say on that is, of course, I'm going to wait closer to the deadline. It is a bit of a luxury move, and I can completely understand if you're not with it. But I already have another Arsenal attacker in this team, so I'm hoping he can somewhat cover the attack. Again, it will come down to the wire though, because Spurs being the early kickoff on Saturday morning at 12:30 versus West Ham at home, it's a tasty one, and with 3 home fixtures in the next 4, I'm fairly hopeful that we're going to net a few. So that is the thought process. Let me know what you think of that, because I know a lot of people won't agree with that. It's actually quite interesting as well. With the 2 weeks off, I've been quite busy with college work and that, so I actually haven't spent too much time watching any FPL content. But when I came back to Twitter, maybe yesterday-ish, I was looking on my feed, and a lot of people were hyping up the Spurs boys. And in prior weeks, it wasn't such the case. So people have had 2 weeks to think, and they're on the same wavelength now. So let's see how the Spurs assets do. In terms of Kulusevski and Brennan Johnson, who I know a lot of people are also looking at. Brennan Johnson, of course, picking up another goal on international duty, which is massive. I think that's seven goals in the last 7 games. And it's great for a player like him, for his confidence. But what I would say is I wouldn't be expecting that on a weekly basis. He's on some form right now, but he is due a blank if that's how it works. Kulusevski, of course, he also returned on international break, and he is playing out of his skin. So for those with Kulusevski and haven't yet got a return yet, I feel like that is coming. He is playing some of the best football I've seen so far, and to think that I almost lost faith in him, it was fairly unfair. He's been revolutionised since playing central. So that's enough waffle on the Spurs boys. Let's get into Tyler Dibbling, who does have a flag, but he has a really juicy fixture at Leicester at home. I have Semenyo on the bench, and I'm not too worried about benching Semenyo, to be honest. It's a very tough fixture, of course, with with Arsenal, of course. And Bournemouth are kind of struggling, I want to say, to put the ball in the back of the net. And Semenyo is a big part of what they do, but again, Arsenal are easily the best defence in the league. So for me, it's just not a week to play Semenyo. Tyler Dibbling, though, was very, very impressive against Arsenal, I have to say. He played out of his skin. Again, for Southampton's expectations, I suppose, they did get a good few chances, and Dibbling dribbled past what's his name, the Italian man Calafiori 2 or 3 times, and he hit the post also. So nice little differential going into this game week. One other move that I was considering in this spot was potentially moving up a Semenyo up to an Eze. Now, Eze has got Nottingham Forest, who are quite a good defensive team this week, but I have the exact amount of funds to do it, and I don't know, I'd be holding fate in Eze. What would swayed me to bring in Eze? I just feel like, you know, if I don't play Tyler Dibbling this week with Leicester at home, we know Southampton are a very attacking team. When am I ever going to play him? So I think I'm probably better off playing Tyler Dibbling and holding off on the Eze move until maybe for the Tottenham game, which we know we can be leaky. So Eze could be a good buy in game week 9 if I plan on doing that. Why can't I speak? You know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, in Mbeumo, of course, with Man United at home, I know on paper it looks very, very good, and we've seen in recent weeks how poor United have been. But to be honest, United away, I'm actually not too hopeful on this. I don't know why. I just, you know, when you get a feeling in your stomach, there's probably all signs of Brentford scoring in the first 30 seconds, but I have a feeling Mbeumo is going to blank. But yeah, definitely happy to hold Mbeumo. He's done an absolute service to Choi's XI in the last few weeks. So won't be going anywhere near benching him. And let's see if Brentford can do it in the early stages of that game. Rodgers, of course, with Fulham away. Rodgers is absolutely amazing. I think he probably is one to hold for the season. I want to say, providing that John Duran doesn't start knocking down his minutes. Not too much to say on Rodgers, other than I'm happy to have him and definitely willing to play him over Semenyo this week. So that concludes the midfield. Let's get onto our forwards. So that leaves us with 3 very, very solid forwards in Dominic Solanke, Erling Haaland and Kai Havertz. I suppose I'll start with Solanke. I did say eventually he would become one that everyone owns. He's picking up some grey areas, of course, and Spurs do look a threat going forward. And of course, the odd chance he does have that penalty share. So, Solanke versus West Ham, I really do fancy this fixture, like I said. And you'd expect Solanke with 2 weeks off now. I know he was included in the England squad, but he didn't play too much. So, you'd be hopeful that Solanke would return in this fixture. Again, like I said, I would probably try to get Solanke with the next 4 or 5 fixtures coming up for Spurs. I think they are great, and I'll try to look at it from a non-biased point of view. But I just look at the other assets at the 7.5 kind of range, and he's heading towards another price rise to 7.7, I believe. But I think he probably is the best value out of the 8.5 and below bracket. Of course, you've also got Kai Havertz, who's in this team. But I do think with the fixtures that Arsenal have coming up now, and I know Havertz is on this amazing run of scoring, but you would like to think he's not going to maintain this even in those difficult fixtures. You never know though. I will hold on to Kai Havertz, and he's definitely a good hold for sure. He's been absolutely on fire this season. And it's interesting because I'm going to be honest, and I own him. I didn't expect this from Havertz. He's picking up some of the best numbers we've seen for... considering you wouldn't consider him a proper out and out number 9, but he's been amazing this season, and I'll definitely be holding on to him for this fixture versus Bournemouth. Whether or not I stick onto him with the fixture next week, I think it's versus Liverpool, I'm unsure of, but it's just who I go to, I don't know. But yeah, definitely a solid option to have Kai Havertz. And of course, the main man Erling Haaland up top. 2 blanks since I brought him in, but I'm not too worried. We've got Wolves this week and then Southampton next week, which look like absolute bankers. Wolves, of course, without Mosquera, and they've looked very, very leaky in defence. Of course, we've seen, what was it in that Brentford fixture? 5-2, I want to say it was. So we know they're a team susceptible to conceding goals, and of course, for me, the armband probably has to go on Erling Haaland. This will be an amazing fixture for City. Of course, KDB eventually getting back in the picture, and Foden picking up minutes with England. He's not playing quite at the standard he usually does, but again, it's City and it's Pep Guardiola. We've seen it every single season, and they usually tend to do quite well in these type of fixtures. So for me, I don't think I'm in doubt on who I'm going to put the armband on. I mean, if Son was out, I'd consider a Solanke, but that's because he gets the pen share without Son. But other than that, I mean, no doubt Erling Haaland. Again, you might call it quite template or boring, but it is what it is. And there are plenty more weeks to make big decisions to try gain some rank, and I don't think this is the week to go against Haaland. So that's the team. I wanted to quickly get to a question that I was asked on Twitter, if I can find it real quick. Is how would you rate these 3? Mbeumo, Rodgers and Welbeck. So I know it's not to do with my team, but just if you're in this theoretical situation, of course I've got Mbeumo and Rodgers. I would say you can't bench Mbeumo, and that is because he's on penalties, of course, and United haven't been great in recent weeks. Who I'd be leaning to benching is Welbeck. Now that might come as a surprise to a lot of people, but again, I just feel like St James's Park is always going to be a difficult fixture in comparison to Rodgers at Craven Cottage. I think I fancy that a bit more than Welbeck. So that is the team. Of course, we do have 4 free transfers and 1.3 million in the bank. If you have any suggestions on what you do with my team, or again, like I said, about your own team, be sure to let me know in the comment section below. Again, I am probably 75% leaning towards bringing in Son, and then of course next week in game week 9 we will still have 4 free transfers and more money in the bank in comparison to this week. On the bench, of course, is Semenyo, Greaves and Mykolenko. Of course, a good news for Mykolenko since the international break. He's had 2 weeks off to recover, and looks like he's going to be involved in training fairly soon, or if he's not already. So there's the team. Let me know what you think. Be sure to hit that like button before you go, and thank you for joining me for another Game Week 8 team selection video, and I will see you for the deadline stream on Saturday.